The story kicks off in 1995 with Elle celebrating her 16th birthday. And from every inch of the mansion drowning in pink on pink, it's crystal clear she's living in a full-blown Barbie world without a single worry in her life. Even the juice cup she's sipping from is pink. After she grabs the mic, thanks the guests, and says a few sweet words about her best friend Madison, since they've been besties for over 10 years now, she runs over to her and lays out the plan for the new year. First, get close to the most popular girls at school so she can be famous like them. Second, join the cheerleading squad. And the last wish, the most important one of all, get together with Josh. And that's obviously because he sits right at the top of the list of the hottest guys around. The moment she spots Josh walking toward her, she gets so flustered she can barely string 2 words together. But lucky for her, he's coming in ready to confess his feelings. Sadly, though, her mom kills the moment by calling her over to blow out the candles. Things keep rolling along nicely until suddenly she notices her dad and mom wearing that serious look on their faces, and they break the news to her that it's not exactly the best. Turns out, after the last cosmetic surgery her dad performed on a woman went horribly wrong, the whole world came crashing down on him. So the bottom line, they have to move to Seattle. And here, hell breaks loose for Elle, to the point where she just bursts into tears because she can't even wrap her head around being away from her school and her friends. Not to mention Josh, who was literally on the edge of confessing. And obviously, in situations like this, there's nothing better than a little retail therapy to lift the spirits. But sadly, it doesn't help one bit, and she sinks even deeper into her funk. That's when her mom gets her a puppy as a gift, hoping to give her a reason to maybe fall in love with the new city. The problem is, the second she pulls up to the new house, she's hit with pouring rain and this gloomy, overcast weather. Not to mention the house itself looks almost abandoned, with dark, moody colors on every wall. Still, Elle tells herself she has to at least give the place a chance and try her luck. So she wakes up bursting with energy, throws on her fanciest pink dress, and heads to school full of life. The second she walks in, she's stunned to realize it's not just the sky that's gloomy. Even the people themselves are affected by the overcast mood. And apparently, they've adopted black as some kind of unofficial uniform. God only knows why. So, since she's the only one lighting up the hallways in the middle of all these students, she catches every kind of snide comment and dirty look you could imagine. But she still holds her ground and keeps that smile plastered on her face. The first girl she meets, sitting right next to her in class, she tries to strike up a conversation with, asking her what she did over summer break. She explains that she's new here, and her 2 favorite things in life are coffee and the color pink. The girl gives her this baffled look, so confused that she assumes someone must be pranking her, and she asks who put her up to this. Kimberly, right? Then she slips her headphones on and tunes her out completely. So Elle tries to shake off all the awkward moments piling up on her and just keep her day moving normally. Until by pure coincidence, she spots a student handing out flyers and speaking with the exact same accent as hers. She runs over to him like she's just found a long-lost relative and tells him he looks British. Doesn't he? She confesses she was starting to feel like a total stranger here. He gives her the same puzzled look everyone else has been giving her, but bless his heart, he introduces himself as Dustin. Yes, he's British, but he's been living here for 10 years now, which is more than half his life at this point. She quickly tries to change the subject and yanks a flyer from his hand to see what he's actually passing out. And of course, like anyone in this world who judges people by their looks and the way they dress, he responds with pure sarcasm. He explains that the support staff at the school are severely underpaid, so they're organizing a protest to demand higher wages. You know, real people's problems, not the fantasy Barbie planet she seems to be living on. Then he walks off and leaves her standing there. Left with no other option, Elle runs back to the same girl who was sitting next to her in class, Liz by the way, and tells her she has one last favor to ask. Where can she find the most popular girl in the school? Now, completely convinced that Elle is shallow beyond saving, Liz points her toward Kimberly, the girl with the curly hair sitting over there. So Elle, full of misplaced confidence, walks straight over and plops herself down at the table with Kimberly and her friends like they've been besties for years, jumping right into the middle of their conversation as if that's going to make them instant friends. Sadly, it backfires completely. especially when Kimberly finds out she's coming in fresh from Los Angeles, and she makes it crystal clear there's a massive difference between the two cities. Because here, they care about women's rights and the real issues facing society, meaning their whole world doesn't revolve around which designer brand they're wearing today. And they don't just let random people force their way onto their table. Humiliated, Elle heads straight to Donna, the principal's secretary, and asks for a sick day. And since Donna loves helping students, she takes her time chatting with her to help her settle into the place a little better. Guess? And she confesses that she's the type who loves bending the rules for the kids. If Elle ever needs a signature on a form, or wants to throw a party behind the administration's back, or even needs cash in a pinch, she's got her back no matter what. And her words hit Elle hard because she desperately needed to feel that there was at least one person treating her like a human being in this soulless school. After that, she signs up for the cheerleading squad, hoping to at least check off one of her birthday wishes. But even that falls apart because the squad captain is one of those hardcore feminist types, meaning they don't do the whole women cheering for men thing here. If a guy wants to be cheered on, he can cheer for himself. Thank you very much. But hey, consider yourself accepted. And she's left drowning in frustration because every single thing here is a full 180 from the life she used to know. By pure coincidence, on her way out, she bumps right into Miles, a student on the track team, and pretty much the only person who's treated her with any kind of respect so far. He apologizes to her and even asks for her name, just being friendly. And when she finally gets home, something happens that lifts her mood a little, because Madison makes the sacrifice and calls her from the brand new landline she just installed in her car. But she warns her they've only got exactly 2 minutes, because after that, the bill's going to be brutal. So Elle tries to squeeze the whole miserable day into a rushed rundown and pretty much sums it up like this. She's basically speaking a different language than everyone else here, because not a single one of them will give her a chance to get close. So Madison throws out a suggestion. What if she tries to speak their language? Meaning, try being like them, but in her own way. And the idea starts growing on her. She digs up a black t-shirt of some famous rock band, but of course adds a few little pink touches to it because staying on brand is non-negotiable. The next day, she struts into school on cloud 9, convinced this is going to fix everything. Sadly, Kimberly hits her with a wave of mockery the second she sees her. What is that disaster she's wearing? It's basically the worst thing she's ever seen in her life. And Elle takes the hit hard and rushes back home to break down crying. But she finds her mom waiting with a surprise because she's transformed her gloomy new room into an exact copy of her old one. And she's so overwhelmed with joy, she just keeps sobbing, telling her mom that she must be a shallow person if pink curtains and pink walls are enough to make her this happy. But her mom flips her perspective because she's sweet and simple and knows her daughter inside out. She tells her it's all just a matter of time, and one day she'll get the students to love her and warm up to her for who she really is. Her mom's words fill her with fresh energy to try again. The next day, she walks into school buzzing to see what fortune has in store for her, and by chance, she spots Dustin standing in the middle of the school, selling little items to raise donations for the support staff. She senses this is her chance, and slides right in next to him to work her charm and put her powers of persuasion to good use. Lucky for her, Miles, the same guy she bumped into last time, happens to be standing there, and out of pure curiosity about her, he encourages her and buys something. So her excitement kicks up a notch, and she keeps reminding the students how much the support staff deserve respect and support. Take Donna, the secretary, for example. She's always breaking rules behind the principal's back just to help them out. And as much as her speech stirs the humanity inside them, and they end up buying every last item on display, she also unknowingly wrecks everything from a completely different angle. Because Donna gets fired from her job since word spread across the entire school that she was breaking rules. And as usual, Kimberly hits her with a few choice words, letting her know that Donna's gone because of her. And it's about time she snapped out of the Sesame Street fantasy she's living in and joined the rest of them in the real world. And just like that, Elle is back to square one, with every student throwing disgusted looks her way, because her actions had a serious streak of stupidity in them. The problem is, even when she goes to her dad for help, her mom chimes in from the other side of the room and explains that Donna wasn't just fired for breaking rules. She was actually taking money from the school safe to help the students, which is technically illegal. Since it's not impossible, she was pocketing some of it too. But Elle is dead certain that Donna would never do something like that. And since her parents clearly aren't going to help, she marches into school with fresh determination and pitches Kimberly an idea. What if they start a petition and collect student signatures, hoping it'll get Donna reinstated? But Kimberly just laughs her off with pure sarcasm, joking that she must have hit her head on a cartoon movie or something before grabbing her friends and walking off, leaving Elle standing there alone. At that point, the only person Elle has left to turn to is Madison, and she finally gets to vent. Madison tells her that Cosmo magazine just launched a fashion design scholarship, meaning if she applies and gets accepted, she can come back and no one from her family will be able to argue with it. She gets fired up and agrees to apply in secret, and once she gets in, she'll break the news at home and leave them with no other choice. But of course, before all that, she still has to stir up some noise at school. And honestly, nothing beats Donna's situation for that. So she tries talking to Liz, hoping to spark some enthusiasm for the idea. But as usual, Liz hits her with that same, "Have you lost your passion for life?" reaction, basically asking what on earth she's even talking about. Left to her own devices, Elle takes matters into her own hands and marches into the principal's office to ask him straight up whether there's any hope of getting Donna back, or is this just wasted energy on a lost cause? And right in the middle of their conversation, the assistant walks in and tosses him an orange jacket she says she found in his car by pure coincidence. Since Elle loves obsessing over the tiniest details, she jumps straight to the conclusion that he's cheating on his wife. And that's because his wife, clearly visible in the framed photo on his desk, has bright red hair. So how in the world would a redhead ever wear an orange jacket? It's beyond a fashion crime. After that, she stops by Donna at her new job and tells her she's going to try everything in her power to fix what she broke and get her back at the school. But Donna asks her to leave her alone and to go waste her energy on making better friends instead. So Elle drags herself back to school, drowning in frustration because every time she tries to do something kind, it blows up in her face. Out of nowhere, a girl walks straight up to her with a warm smile, hands her a gift, and introduces herself. Her name is Shannon, the head of the social committee. She tells Elle that from the very first day she showed up at school, she's been dying to talk to her because in her eyes, Elle is a total fashion icon. Elle instantly assumes this has to be some kind of prank, right? But Shannon reassures her that she's a feminist, meaning she supports women through the good and the bad. Then she hands her the gift and heads off to catch her class. And in that moment, Elle is on cloud 9. Sadly, though, the joy doesn't last long, because just minutes later, she spots Shannon sitting at the same table with Kimberly. The only thought running through her mind is that it really was a prank after all. So she runs over to Dustin and asks him how someone with taste like Shannon ends up being friends with Kimberly. He explains that Shannon's the type who gets along with just about anyone, meaning she knows the entire school inside and out. On top of that, her mom is a famous author. And that's when Elle notices that Shannon's gift is actually a copy of her mom's book. So she seizes the opportunity and pitches her own mother the idea of throwing a book signing party. To make it extra tempting, she convinces her that pretty much every woman in the city will be there. So she'll have the chance to make new friends instead of sitting cooped up at home. So off they go, and the whole thing is running beautifully until her mom completely wrecks the mood by speaking with dramatic emotion, telling the author that she noticed her book explores the pain of failure and how a person picks themselves up and starts over. Then she casually drops in an example, going into detail about her husband's botched cosmetic procedure and how brutal that period was for them, to the point they had to relocate from their mansion in Los Angeles to their mansion here. Naturally, the author gives her a look that basically screams, "What kind of billionaire problems are these?" And here, Elle is completely mortified, and for the first time, it truly sinks in just how shallow their lives really are. She grabs her mom and rushes out before things get any more embarrassing. Later that evening, when her dad notices how down she is, he tries to talk to her and lighten the mood. She tells them she doesn't have a problem with her mom, but she genuinely regrets dragging her along. And by chance, her mom happens to be passing by the room and overhears every word, and it hurts her deeply because all she wanted was to help, and instead she was mocked for it. The next day, Elle drops by the record store where Liz works, pretending to be surprised, acting like it's all just a happy coincidence. To try and get closer to her, she casually mentions mid-conversation that she has an extra ticket to a concert for Liz's favorite band. And Liz crumbles right in front of the temptation and agrees to go with her because she's been hunting for a ticket for months. But the second they walk into the venue, Elle is completely baffled by the place and everything happening around her, since the closest thing she's ever attended is an opera night. But this rock band is a little too heavy for her taste. And the trouble doesn't stop there because out of nowhere, she finds Kimberly standing right in front of her, turning to Liz and asking her how in the world she's hanging out with the girl who got her mother fired. Furious, Liz storms off and leaves them behind. And here the truth lands. Elle finally realizes that Donna is Liz's mother, and she chases after her to apologize. But now that everything's out in the open, Liz tells her straight up that if she keeps digging around behind the principal's back and exposing his secrets to try and help her mom, the whole thing is going to blow back on her, and she'll end up getting kicked out of the school too. So she begs Elle to back off and stop everything she's doing, because she's hurting her. Meanwhile, Dustin spots Elle from across the room, clearly upset, so he walks over and sits down with her to figure out what's going on. But honestly, she can't even wrap her head around any of it. And she confesses that when she tried to help, she got someone fired. And when she tried to fix what she broke, she found out she'd only be hurting someone else. Why is every single thing here more complicated than it needs to be? So Dustin grabs her by the hands and pulls her right into the middle of the crowd, hoping that once she loses herself in the dancing and the music, she'll shake the mess out of her head. She just stands there spinning in place, because a sheltered girl like her could never dance the wild, chaotic way everyone else is. But the second she starts to let loose a little, she takes a hit straight to the head that sends her crashing to the floor. And in that moment, Miles appears out of nowhere, scoops her up, and rushes her to the hospital to make sure she's okay. Touched, because this is the first time anyone has treated her with this kind of gentleness, but as usual, her happiness doesn't last long. Because at the end of the day, she takes her dog out for a little walk in the park, and out of nowhere, she stumbles on a sight she really didn't want to see, because she spots Miles sitting with Shannon, and from the look of them, it's clearly more than innocent friendship. So she makes a silent vow to herself to avoid him as much as she possibly can, because she's not willing to lose Shannon as a friend. The next day, she sneaks into the cafe in disguise, trying to avoid running into any of them. And who does she bump into? The two of them together. And not just that, Kimberly's with them too. She does her best to act natural, and the encounter only pushes her harder toward applying for that fashion scholarship, so she can escape back to the city and leave all this mess behind. When she starts reading the questions on the application, one of them catches her eye. If someone met her for the first time, how would they describe her? So she drifts off into her thoughts and marvels at how gorgeous she is, packed with qualities. She's kind, chic, generous, and above all, oozing self-confidence. She's still riding that self-love wave all the way until she gets to school, where she's stopped dead in her tracks. Because some lovely soul has scrawled a nasty word across her locker, basically an insult attacking her character. Shocked? Because that's the last thing anyone could accuse her of. She tries every way possible to wipe it off, but nothing works. Left with no other choice, she steals a sticker from Dustin's locker to cover the word up until she figures out how to actually clean it. The whole thing hits her so hard that the next day, she shows up to school wearing a turtleneck sweater, as if to prove there's nothing questionable about her character. She wants to talk to her mom about what happened, but she finds her buried in preparations for the welcome party she's throwing. So she tries to understand and just carries on with her day. And suddenly, she spots the invitation for the party Kimberly's throwing at her house, and she notices the handwriting is the exact same as what was scrawled on her locker. Confronting her, she asks Kimberly why she's got such a problem with her. And Kimberly loses it, snapping back that she doesn't even see Elle at all. All she can see is the way Elle's been eyeing Miles, and she'd better back off because Shannon's been her friend for years, and there's absolutely no way she's letting Elle pull something like that on her. Heart-pounding, Elle scrambles to hold it together so it doesn't show that the words hit their mark. She plays it off like she's shocked, acting like she can't believe Kimberly would ever accuse her of something so awful. The next day, she brushes it all off and carries on like normal, sitting down to have breakfast with Liz. But Liz is baffled that Elle keeps popping up next to her every 5 minutes and asks her point blank what exactly she wants from her, because they don't have a single thing in common to be friends. And the second Liz gets up and leaves her sitting there, Elle spots Kimberly heading her way to pile on some more. To dodge the whole mess, she blurts out that she's already dating someone and calls Dustin over as if he's the lucky guy. And weirdly enough, he plays along with the lie without missing a beat. But since nothing in this world comes for free, he lets her know that just like she helped him, she now has to help him bring down the principal because he's taking bribes and abusing school resources for his own personal gain. She agrees, but only on the condition that they do everything by the book and hire a lawyer, because she's terrified Liz will end up caught in the crossfire for nothing. She takes him along and heads to her mom to see if she'll help them out too. But her mom drops the whole thing cold and asks if this is really her classmate because he looks like a guy with a criminal record, probably serving 2 years and on the run. And Elle gets frustrated with her. This messed Leah because she judged him purely on his appearance. She pushes back even harder, telling her mom she won't be free for the welcome party she's throwing because she'll be with Dustin at Kimberly's party. And since the invitation clearly says pool party, Elle throws on her swimsuit, grabs Dustin, and heads over. But the second she walks in, she's mortified to realize she's the only one dressed like that because the pool they're all talking about is completely drained and used for skateboarding. Cheeks burning, she asks Dustin how he could possibly not warn her about something like this and let her walk in looking like this. And she runs off to hide in the first room she can find until she figures out how to survive this disaster. But he's caught off guard by her reaction because he never expected her to handle it this smoothly. Left with no other option, she calls Liz and leaves her a voicemail explaining the disaster she's stuck in, begging her to bring over any clothes to cover herself with. Before hanging up, she tells her they don't have to be alike to be friends because she genuinely admires Liz's personality since she doesn't care what anyone thinks and just does the things she loves. Meanwhile, Donna happens to be sitting right next to Liz as the voicemail plays, and she encourages her to give Elle a chance to be friends. After all, she was the only one who bothered to check in on her after she lost her job, so clearly the shallowness on the surface is deceiving. This girl is a real friend. Convinced by her mom's words, Liz agrees to go help her. And not only that, she refuses to bring any clothes for her either, and tells her that if this is her style and she thinks she looks good in it, then she should stay true to herself. Elle lights up at her words, to the point where she walks right out in front of everyone and joins Dustin, singing along and acting completely natural. And as if they'd been jinxed, everything flips on him out of nowhere. Because she catches him passing out flyers, trying to rally the students into protesting against the principal. Enraged at his move because they'd agreed to handle everything by the book, she rips the papers out of his hands and tosses them aside. Liz steps in to defuse the situation, telling him Elle is only doing all this to try and protect her, so he shouldn't hold it against her. The next day at school, Shannon brings her a special pink paint to cover up the words scrawled on her locker, and it's crystal clear she's finally made real friends. When she gets back home and is standing there with her mom, a voicemail from Madison plays on its own, letting her know she got accepted into the first round of the scholarship. And here, her mom snaps to attention, asking her what scholarship exactly, when she applied, and why she'd hide something like this. Flustered, Elle scrambles for an excuse, telling her she was waiting to actually get accepted before making a fuss over nothing. Weirdly enough, her mom lights up with excitement and tells her that if she gets accepted, she'll come back to the city with her, because there's no way she's leaving her alone at a time like this. And Elle is genuinely thrown, because she never expected her mom to take it this smoothly. And out of nowhere, an idea pops into her head. What's the harm in convincing them at school to throw a proper party for the start of the year? And since she doesn't like wasting time, she pulls together a whole pitch in a file and presents it to the student affairs team, which happens to be Kimberly and her friends. As usual, Kimberly hunts for anything to sabotage the idea and reminds Elle that here isn't there, because there's no cheerleading squad and no one wears colors other than her. But Elle brushes it all off, because a fruitful tree always gets stones thrown at it, and she convinces her that there's no harm in trying something new. Since the rest of the team is on board, Kimberly is forced to back down and asks Elle to let her handle the cheerleading squad, and she'll take care of it. Later on, Shannon opens up to Elle because she just broke up with Miles, admitting that things haven't exactly been great since he got back from New York over the summer. And yes, she's hurt, but at the same time, weirdly relieved. And here, Elle scrambles to bury the joy bubbling up inside her, playing shocked and asking why on earth this happened, because they were the definition of the perfect couple. At the end of the day, though, guilt eats at her over her feelings for Miles, so she asks her mom what she's supposed to do if she falls for someone she's not supposed to fall for. And her mom hits her with a hard truth, telling her that from her very limited experience, sadly, there's no fix, because once the heart picks someone, they don't come out easy. She softens the bitter pill by telling her that soon enough, they'll be heading back to the city, and she'll be far away from all this drama. And Elle vows to herself to pour all her focus into the party, but even that, Kimberly won't let her enjoy in peace. When the day of the yearbook shoot rolls around, Elle is stunned to find there's no cheerleading squad at all, because Kimberly never bothered to tell a single person about it. Furious at her friend's stunt, Shannon offers to take Elle to her secret spot, the place she always escapes to when she needs to get away from everyone. And there, she gives her a piece of advice. Instead of throwing a party based on her own taste, why not throw one based on what the students actually want? Only then will they get excited and want to be part of everything. And it clicks for Elle instantly, so she turns to Liz because she knows everything and everyone and can help her pull the whole thing together. And that's exactly what happens, because Liz walks around handing out party flyers to every student, on top of tempting them with the same sweets her mom used to bake and pass out to them. As for the cheerleading squad, Elle handles every single detail herself. When the day of the party finally arrives, she's stunned to find the place packed to the brim, and she feels genuinely proud of herself, because for the first time, she actually pulled something off and saw it through. Elsewhere, Liz notices the way Dustin keeps looking at Elle and asks him point blank if he's got feelings for her, or what exactly his deal is. And since he's still deep in denial, he plays clueless, joking that no way is her talking about the kind of crush she's thinking of. Him? Falling for a Barbie? Never in a million years. And since the party goes off without a hitch, Shannon lets Elle in on the next plan, a winter formal to raise donations for the support staff. And Elle lights up, because they're finally acknowledging her existence to the point where they're pulling her into little details like this. Meanwhile, Miles pulls a genuinely sweet move on her. When he notices she's cold, he takes off his jacket and drapes it over her, and the moment between them starts building into something more, when suddenly she spots her mom standing right behind them, filming it all like it's just another part of the party. Enraged, she grabs the videotape and chucks it straight into the trash, snapping at her that this is her private life she's about to broadcast in front of the whole school. And out of nowhere, the whole argument shifts and lands right on the scholarship. She tells her mom straight up that she only agreed to leave in the first place because she wanted to use her as an excuse to get back to the city no matter what, because she can't handle the change or the people here. And here, the truth lands. What's driving Elle over the edge is that her feelings toward everything have flipped, and she doesn't want to leave Seattle or her friends anymore. She takes the entire walk home on foot in the pouring rain, and by chance, she runs into Miles. And here, she loses all control over her feelings, rushes into his arms, and the moment builds between them. The problem is, the second she gets home, the full weight of what she just did lands on her. Because not only did she get close to her friend's ex, he's someone who just came out of that relationship 2 days ago, which is a red flag as clear as they come, since there's absolutely no way he's over a 2-year relationship in a matter of hours. And she decides the right move is to come clean to Shannon about everything and ask for forgiveness. So she rushes to school first thing. Sadly, though, she never gets the chance to say a word because she's blindsided with the news that Shannon's mom was in a car accident and passed away right after the party. So this is definitely not the time for any shocking confessions, and she pours all her energy into being by Shannon's side to help her get through this. Elsewhere, she finds Kimberly sitting alone, clearly shaken, because she offered to plan a farewell tribute for Shannon's mom. And ever since, she's been spinning in circles trying to come up with a single idea that fits. So Elle offers to take the whole thing off her hands and handle it herself. And despite all the bad blood between them, Kimberly agrees, because she's devastated over the loss of Shannon's mom, since she used to treat her exactly like her own. Later, when she sees Miles, she notices he's just as shaken by the news, and she tells him they'll have to leave their relationship on hold until she can talk to Shannon and make sure she's at peace with it. But the most important thing right now is that he stays by her side through this. And Miles understands where she's coming from, because he doesn't want to lose Shannon on bad terms either. The second Elle walks back into the house, her mom hits her with a question. Did she forget they had a guest coming over today? And she blanks, asking her mom what guest exactly. And in that moment, Madison walks out of the room because they'd agreed months ago that she'd come and spend a week with her. Shocked that she'd completely forgotten something like that, Elle scrambles to play it cool, so Madison doesn't feel like she's been replaced. But it slips out anyway, because her focus is glued to the farewell tribute, to the point where the very first place she takes her best friend to visit is the record store where Liz works, so they can brainstorm what music should play at an event like this. And Madison can feel Elle changing in every little detail, but she brushes off her instincts and lets it slide. Until she's blindsided by Elle's dad, who drops the bitter truth on Madison, asking if she really doesn't know that Elle backed out of the whole scholarship thing, because it looks like she's fallen hard for this place. And that hits Madison, because at the very least, she was expecting to hear news like that straight from Elle. As for the second place Elle drags her to, it happens to be the farewell tribute itself. And to ease her own guilt, she promises Madison exactly 30 minutes to make sure everything is running smoothly, and then they'll take off and explore all of Seattle together. Sadly, though, things go sideways, because Kimberly dumps a bottle of alcohol into the punch just to lighten the mood with everyone there. As for Madison, just to break the ice, she casually introduces herself to Dustin as Elle's closest friend, and he's genuinely thrown off and stirs the pot by joking that it's strange, considering this is the very first time he's ever even heard her name. Naturally, Madison is crushed by his words, and she walks straight up to Elle and asks her if she really is her best friend, because she's noticed that no one here knows her, meaning Elle hasn't told a soul about her. On top of that, she was blindsided by the whole scholarship situation and how Elle suddenly decided to cancel it out of nowhere. And Elle feels the pressure crushing down on her. And she admits Madison is right. She really did hide it, but only because she was terrified to confess that she'd genuinely fallen in love with this place and couldn't bring herself to leave it and go back. Madison closes the whole conversation with a cold line, telling her that when the Elle she used to know comes back, they can pick up where they left off. Then she walks away and leaves her standing there. Elle is about to chase after her to smooth things over when a new disaster pops up, because Kimberly grabs the mic and gets on stage to speak, completely drunk. Forced to shut her down, Elle takes the mic away from her and finishes the speech herself. Meanwhile, of all the possible moments, Miles decides to overthink things and can't wait for the party to end, and he confesses to Shannon everything that happened between him and Elle. She completely breaks down in tears and asks him if this is why he'd been so distant with her lately, because he was starting to fall for her. On top of that, of all the possible timing, he couldn't find any moment other than her mother's farewell to drop this catastrophic news on her, and he's stunned at the state she's in because he was under the impression she was doing okay since she'd been holding it together in front of everyone the whole time. And since the damage is already done, he rushes to Elle's house and tells her the disaster he just caused, hoping to salvage whatever can still be salvaged. Shocked, she begs him not to do anything until they get back to school, so she can talk to Shannon herself and pray she'll forgive them. Sadly, though, it's already too late, because the moment she walks into school, Kimberly blindsides her with the news that Shannon has left to live with her father, and she feels she's lost her chance to apologize forever. Meanwhile, her mom takes matters into her own hands and quietly goes ahead and submits the scholarship application in Elle's name, telling herself she's doing it for her daughter's own good. Elsewhere, Elle notices that the street where Shannon's mom had the accident doesn't have a traffic light, so she grabs Liz, and the two of them file a request with Community Affairs to have one installed, hoping that when Shannon finds out Elle is the reason behind something like this, she might forgive her. But she's blindsided by the clerk, who tells her that a request has already been filed and even approved, and that the school principal insisted on personally collecting the funds to handle the installation himself. And here, the truth lands. The principal isn't just cheating on his wife and pulling shady moves. He's a full-blown con artist, using the school itself to run his scams without anyone catching on. She teams up with Dustin and Liz and drags Miles along to round out the group, and they swing by Donna at her new job, asking her if she has any evidence, one way or another, that could prove the principal is a fraud. But Donna can't help them with anything, because she was never really paying close attention to him. Left with no other option, they decide to break into his office and go through the accounting files themselves. Elle pitches the plan. Each of them will pull some kind of stunt to land them in detention on the weekend, so the school will be empty and they can slip into the office at their own pace. And true to plan, Dustin skateboards straight through the middle of the building. Miles pretends to fall asleep in class and hides a bottle of alcohol in his backpack. And last but not least, Elle is supposed to smash a slice of cake into the principal's face. But of course, her manners would never let her do something like that. So the second she stands in front of him, she tells him with a bright smile that she brought him something. And she hands the cake to him with the utmost politeness, then walks away. When the day of detention rolls around, Elle plays completely oblivious and casually shows up as if she's serving her punishment right alongside them. And on top of that, they're all stunned to see that Kimberly is there too. Elle tries her best to keep her nerves in check because every ounce of her focus is locked on pulling off the plan. The first thing she does is duck into the janitor's office to snip the strap holding all the keys. As for the next step, Liz creates a distraction, tossing things into the toilets to clog them up and flood the whole place. Naturally, once there's a water leak, the janitor will rush off to clean it up. And that's when it becomes Miles's turn to swipe the key without the janitor catching on. Sadly, though, the whole plan blows up at that exact moment because he suddenly finds himself face to face with the principal in person. Forced to improvise, they use their classmate's pet rat and shove it down into the pipes. And the second they hear it scurrying back and forth inside, Elle launches into full-blown drama, insisting the principal call the janitor over to free the innocent little rat from its plumbing prison. Left with no choice, he gives in just to shut her up. And that's when she snatches the key from the janitor herself and hands it over to Miles so he can finally see the mission through and get into the office to photograph the files. And the new plan is running smoothly until the principal suddenly notices that Miles is missing. Left with no other option, Elle taps into the mischievous streak she never even knew she had, lights a piece of paper on fire, and holds it right up to the fire alarm. Naturally, the alarm sends the whole place into chaos, and the entire school gets drenched in water. And as much as the principal chews them out, they've already gotten their hands on every single file they came for. At the end of the day, once they all regroup, Miles surprises them with a bombshell. He found a family photo in the principal's office, and it looks like he's not just cheating on his wife. He's also married with a kid. And in that moment, Liz comes running up to them, terrified, and tells them her mom just got arrested on charges of stealing money from the school because she stopped by earlier today to drop off her lunchbox. Without a second of hesitation, Elle is dead, certain Donna is innocent, and someone must have planted the money on her and turned her in. She grabs her mom and dad, and they head to the police station to get Donna released pending investigation until they figure out what's really going on. The next day, they go meet a lawyer, hoping he'll give them any glimmer of hope. But sadly, he's overly pessimistic and confirms straight up that as long as they don't have any evidence, she's going down, and going down hard. Elle pitches an idea. Even without evidence, they could at least film videos of the students talking about Donna. Maybe that could help polish her image a little. But even that plan falls flat because half the students refuse to film, and the other half just muddy the waters even more with their words. And when Elle drags herself back home, she's crushed because she desperately wants to help, but she has no idea how. As always, she vents to her mom because she's the person she feels most comfortable opening up to. But this time around, she's genuinely frustrated with her because her mom is being harsh on Donna and trying every angle to convince Elle that she could actually be a thief. After all, she's lied about plenty of things before, on top of the whole issue of the money she was taking from the safe. Enraged, Elle snaps back and asks her mom that if she were in her shoes, would she just stand back and watch the students from a distance, or would she try to help them any way she could? And she reminds her that even her mom must have had moments in her life when she had no choice but to lie about things to protect herself or her family. Once she's done with that conversation, she goes to meet Miles and confesses to him that she's genuinely shaken because she spent her whole life dreaming that when she grew up, she'd be exactly like her mom. But lately, she's been feeling like her mom isn't the same person she pictured in her head. And Miles gets through to her with a simple truth, telling her she doesn't need to be anyone other than herself. After that, they all gather at Donna's house to organize the video recording sessions because Kimberly finally decides to swallow her pride and help them out. And she manages to convince the students to shoot honest videos to help Donna prove her innocence. And in the middle of all the chaos and the effort they're pouring in, Elle is genuinely thrilled because this is the first time in her life she's stayed up until sunrise with a real group of friends. The plan going forward is to play the video at the swearing-in ceremony for the new mayor. Sadly, though, everything comes crashing down in a single moment because Elle finds out that Donna has turned herself in and confessed to stealing the money. She breaks down sobbing and tells Dustin she's absolutely certain Donna only did this to protect Liz, nothing more. He tries to comfort her and calm her down, and suddenly, right in the middle of her breakdown, it hits her. The files they found in the principal's office must have been tampered with, and it's not impossible that the new mayor himself has a hand in everything that's happening, and the two of them are running the scam together. And here, Elle summons every ounce of courage she has and walks up onto the stage right in the middle of the ceremony, announcing to everyone that the principal is a fraud and a cheater. Because come on, it's just not humanly possible for a man whose wife has bright red hair to be wearing an orange jacket. And after she loosens up the crowd with that little tension breaker, she pulls out the real files that prove he was pocketing money from community affairs, splitting it with the mayor. And just like that, she manages to prove Donna's innocence with the smoothest reveal imaginable, and Donna is finally able to return to her job as the principal's secretary all over again. As for the principal himself, they appoint one of the former teachers in his place. And since Elle is the reason behind all of it, they throw her a small celebration at the school to honor the incredible effort she poured in for them. But as tradition goes, every sweet moment in Elle's life has to end in disaster. Because Shannon walks in at that exact moment and hits her with a stinging line, asking her that after she stole her boyfriend, now she wants to steal her friends too? On top of that, she pulls out the article that got published under Elle's name in the scholarship magazine, which was supposed to be the final article her mom submitted on her own to complete the application process. The catch is, that article was Elle explaining herself and her reasons for applying. And it was pretty much wall-to-wall insults about the city of Seattle and the people who live in it. Elle feels like the ground just opened up beneath her, and she tries every angle to explain that those words were written a long, long time ago, back when she hadn't even gotten close to any of them yet, or built any of these memories. But of course, Shannon doesn't give her a single opening to explain herself, and every time she tries to defend herself, she cuts her off so no one there hears a word from her or gives her a chance. Devastated, Elle drags herself home and confronts her mom, asking her why she did this. She was crystal clear that she didn't want to apply anymore, but her mom brushes right past the state she's in and gushes about the fact that Elle got accepted into the scholarship, and tells her she did it because deep down she knows it's for her own good, that Elle needs to go back to the city, be surrounded by people like her, and learn the things she loves. But Elle refuses to cave to her mom's need to run, and she tells her straight up that she loves this place and doesn't want to leave it. The next day, she walks into school and heads straight to the principal's office to deliver a formal apology over the intercom, thinking that maybe now they'll agree to forgive her and give her a second chance and all that. Sadly, though, her efforts fail miserably, to the point where she walks right past her friends and not a single one of them will even glance her way. And when the situation becomes too much for her to bear, she picks up the phone and calls her mom, telling her she was right, let's go back. And true enough, she and her mom head back alone, and Elle pours all her focus into school and the scholarship, hoping to forget every last thing about that chapter of her life. Even though she's back to the exact life she'd been living for nearly 16 years, she's haunted by this creeping feeling that something just doesn't sit right. Meanwhile, Dustin, Liz, and Miles are all shaken by the sudden way Elle just walked out on them, because instead of trying with them once, twice, or 3 times, she left the whole city and everything in it behind and just took off. To distract themselves from thinking about her, they decide to throw the winter donation formal themselves, and Dustin drills it into them more than once that they have to make it look like them, meaning as far away as humanly possible from any of Elle's ideas. As for Elle, she manages to prove herself at the scholarship, he presenting one of her designs in front of one of the biggest designers in the world, who's so mesmerized by her work she asks her for her name so she can remember it. Later that evening, her mom throws a special party at the house, and out of nowhere, the woman whose nose was ruined by her husband's failed cosmetic procedure shows up specifically to make a scene and humiliate them. Her mom is frazzled beyond belief because she never imagined she could be blindsided in front of everyone like that. And here, the truth lands for Elle. Her mom is running away all over again, so she pulls her aside and tells her that this is enough. Let's go back to Seattle. She's not ready for this scholarship step and doesn't want to go through with it. The only thing that matters to her now is being with her friends and learning every single thing step by step alongside them. And her mom is finally convinced and agrees to go back. The second she lands at Seattle Airport, she runs into Shannon by pure coincidence, and she seizes the moment to talk to her and apologize, asking her if she did what she did last time and exposed her to get her revenge, right? Anyway, she forgives her, and Shannon taps into the last little drop of humanity she has left, telling her if she's been putting her relationship with Miles on hold because of her, then consider that Shannon's given her the green light since she's leaving town anyway and not coming back. Then she says her goodbye and walks off. Meanwhile, Elle finds out from her dad that today is the donation formal, so she begs him to drop her off as fast as possible because she has to be with her friends at a moment like this. Lucky for her, the road is at a total standstill because of traffic, so she has no choice but to make the whole trip on foot. running the entire way. And when she arrives, she's stunned to find they've pulled off every little detail of the formal exactly the way she'd imagined it. On top of that, she spots Liz up on stage singing for the very first time. Seizing the moment, she walks over and stands next to Dustin to strike up a conversation. And when she finds him giving her the cold wooden face, she asks him straight up if he really hates her now. And that's when he finally breaks his silence and confesses his feelings for her, and even tries to lean in and get closer. In that exact moment, Miles spots them from across the room and is stunned, because he never imagined the first time he'd see Elle after all this time would be the scene right in front of him. And sadly, for the sake of the suspense and all that, the season wraps up right here. So if you're dying to know which one of them Ella ends up going for, drop us a comment below. So hopefully one of these days when we recap the new season, you'll be in the know.